What is up, everybody? What is up? It's been a long time. I haven't been on YouTube in a little while, and I felt like what better way to come back than just to go live and let's all chat about a very controversial subject, which is Bitcoin versus gold. By the way, I just started with a brand new live stream software. I spent a lot of time learning how to do these live streams. I've ran a lot of tests. So hopefully the sound sounds good. Hopefully the live stream's good. Let me know in a comment. I can see your comments over here on the right side of my screen now with this new fancy setup. There's a bit of a learning curve to this stuff, everybody. So thank you for bearing with me. I just spent a lot of time kind of redoing all the monitors, all the setup here, and make sure the sound is good and all of that. So let me know how the quality is, and we will get on into this. And I also wanted to do this live so that we can all kind of discuss points on whether you think, whether you're for gold or against gold, or for Bitcoin or against Bitcoin, or if you have both like I do. When it comes to precious metals, I actually don't hold too much gold. I hold much more utility precious metals, as you all know about me. But I wanted to just have an open talk here in this live stream, and so I can see all of your comments here. What's awesome is now this time I can see everything is a lot more clear. This new Ecamm software. I got to give this this woman a shout out. I think it's like something Gladwell is her name, but I have to give her a shout out because I was watching her videos. She's like the best teacher on YouTube, and her channel needs to have way more subscribers to it because there's like channels with 1 million subscribers that weren't half as good at teaching how to use this Ecamm software and all this new stuff as she was. So I have to thank her a lot. I'm actually on my Instagram. I'm going to shout her out. But anyway. Sorry to get off this subject here, but I'm stoked that everybody says it sounds good, sounds and looks good. We're on point, everybody. Right on. That means we're coming back with a vengeance. If it sounds good and it looks good, we're coming back for the live streams because I got this new fancy little stream deck over here. I can just click a button and boom, we're live. So it's ready to go. It's ready to go now. So with the gold versus Bitcoin debate, I've spent a lot of time on Twitter, and the reason for that is when I want to learn something, I kind of just get silent, get really introverted, and I want to talk to the best people in that field for a while. And on Twitter, I noticed that, like, for some reason, obviously there's a lot of stuff going on Bitcoin, on YouTube and Instagram and all of that. But for some reason, Twitter has this huge pool of people that are, big on Bitcoin, and they consider themselves Bitcoin maximalists. So I like to be that guy that went into these Twitter spaces and just started learning and talking with these individuals. And I'm like the polar opposite of who they would be welcoming to. So I got a lot of headbutting going on over there, but overall I've made a lot of great friends and I've learned a ton about Bitcoin. And so with my channel, I don't want to come across like a know-it-all. I want to come across as somebody that spends a lot of time researching this stuff and then just puts out the information that I've learned to you all, and just kind of breaks it down in a more simplified way. So to be short, I have become far more bullish on Bitcoin than gold. Just so I'm just like blatantly short about it, and I'm going to go into reasons why. I still hold a lot of utility precious metals, quite a bit. I would say, I'd have to go over the percentage numbers again, but quite a bit of my net worth is in precious metals still when it comes to silver. Platinum, they're just giving away platinum right now, aren't they? Just giving it away. I don't even think it can be mined as cheap as it is right now. It is just a steal for platinum, in my personal opinion, not financial advice, but still as bullish as ever on utility precious metals. But when it comes to gold versus Bitcoin specifically, which is what I wanted to do on this live stream and then talk with you all here in the live stream, and everybody who's for gold, your comment, everything you're commenting will not be silenced. Nobody will be silenced. Let's just keep it civil and let's all chat with each other in here. So we can, maybe there's stuff that you know that I don't know, and you could bring those points up and we can talk about it. So just know I see like the last comment right now was Thomas Anonymous, RC, Scotty, I see you there. Sound Money says gold is better. So write down, maybe like have a pen and pad out and write down what you think is the best points about gold versus Bitcoin, or whether you're for Bitcoin against gold. Write them down and let's all talk about it in a civil way in here. And honestly, I have no moderator. It's just me with my little clicker over here. So there's just me in the room. There's nobody that will be muting anyone. And honestly, that's how we learn. There's stuff I'm going to be talking about in this live stream, but there's going to be stuff that you all are talking about with each other in the live stream. And that's how we learn, is when we're talking with everybody in real time like this. And so I really enjoy that. And I'm stoked, by the way, to have some more comfort knowing that my live streams aren't going to get all messed up. I had figured out that I had initially been doing my live streams through OBS, and it's a free platform. And I thought to myself, maybe it's because I'm being cheap myself and not paying for a live stream service. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pay the $200 or $300, whatever it is, to do this live stream thing. And so now the quality is much better, which I'm stoked about. Hopefully it stays that way. Let me know in comments how the quality is. So far, so good. And then I got this little stream deck and all that stuff. So we're going to be coming back and with quite a bit more videos, because I like this format better than editing my stuff. I like just coming live and talking in real time with everybody. So let's get to some points here. Let's get to some points here with Bitcoin versus gold specifically. The first point I wanted to bring up is, ideally, if you're going to have a universal asset, and these are reserve assets, they're not reserve currencies, which is a big difference. And why I was so against Dogecoin and all of that is because if you're trying to be a currency, the people in charge of the Fed, our government, is not going to be happy about that if you call yourself a currency. Now, if you call yourself an asset, that's a different area. And Powell has actually gone on the record to say, I just consider it like a digital gold, which is what you really want when it comes to how they classify Bitcoin. Recently, they're starting to call all cryptocurrencies other than Bitcoin. I think they might be allowing Ethereum into it, but this is new information. They're classifying other cryptos as securities, whereas Bitcoin is being classified as an asset. That's a really big deal, which means that they might be going to Coinbase and saying, you need to cease and assist all these coins here and shut those down. Now, that's still up in the air. We don't know if it's a certainty, but that's late. If you look up what Gary Gensler has been doing over for the SEC, they have been talking about that. So that is actually a huge positive for Bitcoin, because Bitcoin started it all. Everything else is an altcoin, and an altcoin means an alternative to Bitcoin. So that's a very big positive for Bitcoin. But if it's being classified as an asset, which that's what I believe it is, on the channel I've always talked about it being an asset, then it would be the best unit of account possible. When we move towards the future and we're sick of the unknown, should a human being, should an entity, should a government, should a country, should anything with a human in control of it be in charge of our monetary supply worldwide, a monetary asset worldwide? My belief is in the future that there shouldn't be anybody in control of it. It should be taken away from the humans, whether it's a government, a country, the whole country in that government, the government in the country. Sorry, excuse me. It's been a little while since I did these live streams, or any human being in general. Should they be in charge of the monetary system? No. And so I like the idea of an asset in that layer, in that digital layer that is not in control of any government or anything like that. And all the governments can do is accumulate some for their balance sheet. So that's what we're seeing them starting to do. You're seeing El Salvador putting it on their balance sheet. The other thing that's cool about El Salvador is they're allowing you to invest into their economy 3 Bitcoin. So I used to think to myself, I'm like, that's kind of a lot of money to get a permanent residency in El Salvador. But what it actually is you can pay 3 Bitcoin and buy a beach house down there, or buy a commercial property and have a business idea to open up in El Salvador. And you pay the 3 Bitcoin for that, and now you're a permanent resident there. Excuse me, but you get to have that property. It's just an investment into the country. So aren't other countries going to get jealous? They're going to start getting jealous of that, because they're going to be becoming like Dubai down there in El Salvador if they keep taking in all of this money and more people, because they only put a few hundred Bitcoin on their balance sheet, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that much. When you compare like MicroStrategy, for example, sitting on over 110,000 Bitcoin, El Salvador, a whole country, buying like 300 Bitcoin, 200-300 Bitcoin is not really that big of a deal. What is a big deal is the domino effect of other countries that realize, wait, there's been like 3,000 Bitcoin invested in El Salvador, because people want to go invest who are big in Bitcoin. Maybe they're an early investor in Bitcoin. They want to get a second residency and they want to have a permanent residency down in El Salvador, and they feel like not having to pay capital gains and buying a beach house down there or buying a business down there. So that is huge to me for what could happen for these countries, because that's a domino effect. Now Venezuela, which I'm surprised Venezuela wasn't first, to be honest with you. I thought Venezuela was going to be like the first one because they're really struggling with the currency over there. But El Salvador was. So I see that being an example for a domino effect. But back to the point of accounting, what's big for me in my mind is a unit of account. The reason everyone used gold for as long as they have is because it was a unit of account that was worldwide. There was some way to have a unit of account where it just couldn't be printed to oblivion, you know? The problem is, in the gold business, which I'm very familiar with gold, and a lot of you in the audience are very familiar with gold, we don't know exactly how much gold is out there to the ounce, to the gram. I mean, we don't know. We have no idea. They say roughly 12 trillion. I've been saying that number for a very long time, but do I know that there's really 12 trillion out there? No, I have no idea. None of us have any idea. So when I wrap my mind around that, and this is after taking like 2-3 weeks off and just only being in these Twitter spaces, bouncing information off of these individuals on Twitter who have been in Bitcoin for longer than I have. And I kind of wanted to hear from them on their points of view. It's ironically, they understand why I like precious metals with utility. They understand why I like collectibles. It's funny that they understand that concept. It's just the headbutting match between gold and Bitcoin that they don't understand. And I want to help kind of be a merger between the two communities. That's kind of my ultimate goal, is to be some sort of merger where we all realize that we have the same kind of mindset, which is crazy because there's so much like just headbutting going on. And really, precious people from gold are way more similar to people in Bitcoin than just someone that's not in either space. They're very similar, libertarian mindset individuals that just want individual sovereignty. But back to this point on the accounting, and this also is what invalidates like Ethereum and other coins in my mind as well, is that it's not a good unit of account. With Bitcoin, there's only 21 million around. The other thing is, or 21 million that will ever be able to be mined. Right now, I think only about 19 million of them have been mined. A little bit over 18 million of them have been mined. But here's the crazy factor too. About 3-4 million of those are lost. So even though there's 18 million of them mined, there's been like the supply is even shorter than that because a lot of them have been lost and people are just really bummed out. They threw away an old computer or whatever it might be. There's a guy who paid 10,000 Bitcoin, I think, for a pizza. You know, back in the day, they never expected it to turn into what it has when it was in the beginning of it. And it turns out it has withstood, you know, quite a bit of time, about 13 years now. So it's not exactly a new concept. If it was just made yesterday, then yeah, it'd be very risky. And it still is risky. Don't get me wrong. But it's had a big test trial here, which is interesting. So the supply is really only about 14 million that are in existence and live in current wallets right now, which means the supply is constrained. The supply is finite. We know the exact amount. So for a unit of account, for the world, if we want to know exactly what a good unit of account is there anything better than that? Is there a better unit of account than something that is ultimately limited and we know exactly how much is out there? We know exactly how many wallets there are. The network is over 100 million users. That's interesting to me. And honestly, that's something to me that I don't think maybe in the near term it eats away at gold's market share. Maybe that might be why we've seen gold pull back a little bit. Maybe $1 trillion worth of it is going towards Bitcoin, or $500 billion of it's going towards Bitcoin. But Bitcoin only has a market cap of around 900 billion right now. So somewhere in that 900 billion range, not even $1 trillion yet, whereas gold is roughly 12 trillion. So the first point I wanted to bring up was a unit of account, and that, I mean, if someone said tomorrow that, you know, the Saudis have way more gold than they reported, or we have way more gold than we reported, or England has way more gold than they reported, or China has way more gold than they reported. Would any of us really be surprised? Like, let's be honest here. If they said the real number of gold was 25 trillion, not 12 trillion, it was more than double what we're told, would any of us be surprised? It was kind of a mind-opening moment for me when I realized that. I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know how much gold is in their vaults. Last time I checked, I looked up like the queen in her gold vaults on Google, and it looks like she got a lot of gold. She's got quite a bit. So we don't know exactly how much gold is out there. And it's not being eaten up by industry in the same way that silver and platinum and palladium and rhodium is. So it's just being held as money in these vaults, and it's been being held as money for a very long time. Only about 10-15% of it is used in industry. So it's being accumulated and accumulated and accumulated, and we really don't have a good auditing system. We don't know if the gold's in the vaults. There's all these stories all the time of, oh, there was a bunch of tungsten gold bars in this vault that they thought it was real gold for 10 years, and it turns out it was tungsten. At the end of the day, there isn't a good checks and balances for this to be a fair system. Because as the retail, we don't know how much they hold, which is scary to me. It's something I have on my mind now. And that the other aspect is you'll hear people come back to Bitcoin and go, oh, well, you have to have the ability to continuously mine it. Well, hypothetically, gold will have a limited amount at some point, unless we get onto an asteroid, which I highly doubt. But there is some sort of a limited amount, at least on the surface level. So if you get deeper and deeper, it's going to get harder and harder to get the gold. So that there's that argument. But the other point that I would make up against that with Bitcoin is that it is divisible. And this is what it's crazy to me how many people don't know this, is that it is divisible by 100 million. I repeat, so one Bitcoin, people think that they need, like I've had so many friends and clients come to me and go, well, I bought 10,000 worth of Ethereum. I couldn't afford a Bitcoin. And I'm thinking to myself, you didn't know that you can own a fractional amount of Bitcoin? And so I've been making the argument that these exchanges should be denominating in Satoshis, which is basically where a dollar is, a Satoshi is the cent. So a Bitcoin, Satoshi, dollar, cent. So the denomination of a Bitcoin is a Satoshi. So one Bitcoin is 100 million Satoshis. So when you realize that if Bitcoin gets to $1 million per Bitcoin, currently it's a little bit over 45K a Bitcoin. If it gets to $1 million a Bitcoin, just to put it into perspective on how divisible it is one Satoshi would be 1 penny. If a Bitcoin was $1 million, one Satoshi would be 1 cent. That puts it into perspective just how divisible it really is. And so what's interesting about Bitcoin is, yes, it's an asset. It's like a currency that also is an asset. And now it's an asset that can go into being both a currency and an asset if it wants to be based on the Lightning Network. So there's layer one. There's another layer called the Lightning Network where people are able to do payments like in El Salvador and stuff in real time. Then there's the other argument where people say, oh, well, it's too expensive to send it, and it takes a long time to send it. To them, I would say, no, it doesn't. Like, I have been playing with it. I have moved a full Bitcoin from one wallet to another wallet in the matter of like 3 minutes for pennies on the dollar. It blew my mind. Like I've been playing with building my own node and playing with these cold storage devices. And once you realize that you can actually own it on your own device off of the internet, that doesn't have any internet access. So if you've heard the term cold storage, it means this device has no internet access, which means it's, ultimately safe. When you hear, this is in cold storage, it's air gapped. It means that there is air between itself and any possible connection to this device. That's what it means. So once I started playing with those, I realized, well, that argument isn't valid because this new layer, Lightning, it's removing the clogging going on in layer one. So it's actually making it faster to move transactions in layer one. Whereas like Ethereum, it's getting really, really expensive to do transactions. The gas fees are really expensive because everybody's using it for these NFTs and stuff. So it's clogging up their network. So it can never be sound money. It can never be an asset. Ethereum because it's a completely different model. It's funny because they used to be like, oh, it's so expensive to use Bitcoin. Now it turns out it's more expensive to use Ethereum because of all the NFTs and stuff going on now, and it's been clogging up their network. But that whole argument that it's too expensive or it's too slow, you can't buy a coffee with it. Can you buy a coffee with a wire transfer? Do you go and buy a coffee with a wire transfer? It's like, no, you don't. Bitcoin is a better wire transfer mechanism where you don't need the account number, you don't need the routing number, you don't need the bank's information, the bank's address, the business's address. I mean, there's so much you need for a wire transfer, and you're limited on the time that you can do it. You can't do a wire transfer at 9 p.m. on a Saturday, but Bitcoin's 24/7, 365, and you get an instantaneous soft confirmation. So that means like I see it's on the way, and you can verify it in the Block Explorer and see it's on the way. It's just a way better wire transfer mechanism. So for businesses and institutions, they need something like that where they can send it in real time and be able to like have their balance sheet at their full disposal. I thought it was huge when I realized that. But anyway, I kind of wanted to go over that as a main point. And the last point I wanted to bring up is that these gold miners, for example, the gold miners, and by the way, I will get to your comments. So everybody, I will get to your comments. I just wanted to get these points out, and then we're going to have an open discussion here. So I see all the comments here. This was a huge realization for me is when I saw that the gold miners are dumping their gold. So like Barrick Gold, for example, they'll mine the gold, they dump it as fast as they mine it. They want to sell it on the open market as fast as they get it out of the ground. What's interesting is when you see Hut 8 and Marathon and these new big Bitcoin miners, they're holding it on their balance sheet and they're keeping it. Like look at, like for example, like Warren Buffett also, so investors are keeping it and also the miners are keeping it, which is like unprecedented for something like this. We have never seen anything like that. And so if that's not a bullish thing, I don't know what is. If the miners want to keep the Bitcoin they're mining and then even leverage themselves out to hold more Bitcoin, I mean, that's pretty astonishing. That's a pretty crazy point there. So that was something that I can't get my mind off of, and it's going to limit the supply, and we know how much of the supply is out there. So the checks and balances on this is the first point. The next point is the miners themselves actually want to keep it on their balance sheet. And then you'll see things like the investors are keeping it on their balance sheet. So Tesla actually kept the Bitcoin. They sold a little bit of it to prove the liquidity. And then Elon Musk went on the record that they are holding it. They're not letting go of their Bitcoin. So they have over $1 billion in Bitcoin. Michael Saylor is continuously buying more and more Bitcoin. He just made another purchase of 5,050 Bitcoin, which is like a crazy amount recently at the average price of 48K. So he's actually a little bit down, but he bought that recently, and they're holding it on their balance sheet. Whereas you see like Warren Buffett go into Barrick Gold, play it as a trade, and then dump the position and go back to cash. We're not seeing the same levels of conviction in gold that we're seeing in Bitcoin. And also Bitcoin has a market cap that is actually able to be moved, where you have 900 billion versus 12 trillion or whatever number it really is in gold. So those aspects are what makes me more bullish on Bitcoin than gold, or at least my argument to be it. I guess the best way I could phrase it for somebody that's interested in Bitcoin, doesn't have any of it, is if you're all in Bitcoin, it's foolish to be all in on Bitcoin, and it's equally foolish to have none. That would be the way that I would phrase it, just simply put. What made me have more and more conviction in Bitcoin is actually, if you go back in my videos, I was very bullish on Bitcoin, saying Peter Schiff was wrong around 8 to 10,000 on Bitcoin's price. If you go back, the video is still posted. You can check the date. And that's when I bought my first Bitcoin, was back at those prices. And because of that, I had been saying in those videos, which is funny going back to them and watching them like a year later, year and a quarter later, whatever. I was saying, it's a good idea to put 5% of the balance sheet on Bitcoin, not financial advice, but about 5% is like an insurance play. If it's right, it goes to, you make a bunch of money. If it's wrong, then you can afford to lose it, sort of thing. And it was an insurance play in the beginning. But now that position kept growing and growing and growing and growing on its own, because it was an insurance play that ended up being right. And I still see it in that same way because the market cap is so low in comparison to gold. And the $900 trillion of assets out there isn't getting any smaller, and that's not even including derivatives. So there's another 400 trillion on top of that. So there's a crazy amounts of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trillions of dollars that can go into Bitcoin. Now, the good news is I think that gold will probably go up with Bitcoin. I think that they're just going to be horses in the race, whereas Bitcoin might just be the faster horse in the near term. And gold might go from, 1,700 to 3,000. But at the same time, Bitcoin might go from 50,000 to 1 million. So it's just going to be a faster horse in the race. And I think that once there's a fair checks and balances, if Bitcoin does succeed and there's fair checks and balances, I would imagine the price of all metals to skyrocket, to go up. I think that they're more friends than enemies, which is the ironic part. It's the Peter Schiffs of the world that want to get in this headbutting match. Whereas I think, I'm not going to go and tell people, it's obviously everything I say isn't financial advice, but I'm not going to go and tell people, hey, go all in on Bitcoin. I'm not going to do that. But what I'll do is I still have the same position that I did back when Bitcoin was 10,000 and the videos are posted. I wasn't bullish on Bitcoin only at 60,000 and then that's the time I got bullish. I was bullish on Bitcoin at 10,000 saying, hey, this is a good insurance play. And turns out it's 4 or 5x higher than it was there. So yeah, it's a good insurance play, and I think having 5% of a balance sheet makes a lot of sense, not financial advice. And that's why you see Ray Dalio and Paul Tudor Jones, and you're starting to see more and more investors accumulating Bitcoin. It's because it's an insurance play, and it makes a ton of sense. Those are all the points that I wanted to bring up for Bitcoin, just real quick. And also the on-ramp, I guess, is another point. It is far easier to buy and verify a Bitcoin than it is to buy and verify gold. I mean, that's just point blank what it is. I mean, I got into Bitcoin from an impulse buy on an app. It was just, I had money in that app and I said, I'll buy some Bitcoin. That was how I got into it. It's because it was there and it was an impulse buy. Because it's like in the beginning of Bitcoin, there was one on-ramp that was like Coinbase, where a couple on-ramps, and they were all like sketch. It's like almost like it was a freeway, and there's a lot of accidents happening on this freeway back when we're talking like 2013. There's like a ton of accidents, ton of congestion going on, kind of a sketchy freeway. Now there's like 100 freeways, and all the freeways are safe and secure. And there's a ton of information on top of that. So there's way more on-ramps. The market cap is much lower. You have an ultimately finite amount for perfect checks and balancing. And you can hold it on your own device and have it completely in your own custody. And you can transport it anywhere with you and store your passwords in your head. It's like, if that's not worthy of being on a balance sheet, even if you're anti-Bitcoin, I don't know what is. I mean, it's really elegant, the whole system. And I've been saying this for a long time. And the videos are still posted. You can go back to why I think Peter Schiff is wrong videos. He actually commented on that like a year ago, somewhere around that. But let's get to some comments. Finally, I've talked a while in here. So let's go ahead and chat a little bit. It's been a while since I've rambled, and so I went on a little rambling course here. But we're going to keep this live stream going for a while. I'm happy that it's actually working. Let's talk. So Sound Money, he says, Bitcoin still can't be adapted by the masses. So if we are going to have a monetary reset, it won't be Bitcoin like a few people have said. So I think that's a great point to bring up. So Sound Money says Bitcoin can't be adapted by the masses. My argument would be there's over 100 million users. That's a third of the United States in just users of Bitcoin, and it continuing to grow. You have Cash App where you can just instantly buy it on your Cash App. Venmo has to do it now. And now you have this competition going on where there's more and more on-ramps forming of Bitcoin. And not only that, but you can have custody of it. Now, if you couldn't have, I'll tell you this, if I couldn't have my Bitcoin on my own device in cold storage, and I'm going to be doing a lot of videos on these cold storage devices in the future. And if you want information on it, smash a like and that'll help the channel grow. But realistically, if that wasn't there, if I wasn't able to take custody of the Bitcoin and take it from the exchange and have it in my possession with me having the codes, nobody else having the codes, I would think Bitcoin was foolish. If it didn't have that, but it does have that. and you can have full custody. You can be the reserve bank. So that is the situation. If that wasn't there, then I would totally agree with you, but it is there. So that's where I would say that I would disagree personally on that. But I appreciate that point. I don't think it's a bad point. So everybody, just so you all know, if you have a good comment, and if you guys haven't, please do. Just realize that thing is not flipped. So I'm gonna flip this. But I appreciate if you guys could hit the like button. It would really help this video get out there to more people. I'm gonna flip that for another 30 minutes. So I'm gonna be live for a little bit, but let's get to some more comments here. I mean, I wanted to do this live stream for like just a real Q&A. I mean, maybe some people can change my mind. These are nobody is being held back. Anyone can comment. Let me look here. So I was just on Sound Money's Vacation Time. What's up, Vacation Time? I appreciate it. He always puts the best comments. Superman debating, not arguing. Yeah, that's what we're having here, man. I'm excited to do this. Why can't it be adapted by the Yes, we just went over that. I think it can easily be adapted by the masses, and it's only, I mean, a whole country just made it a currency. So that's pretty heavy, So if that's not adoption, I don't know what is. But I would disagree on that based on me being able to have custody of it. Gold going down. I'm invested in Bitcoin, gold, and silver. Although I understand the basics of why I'm invested, it still makes me insecure. That's maybe it's like pronounced like Heliphaz. I'm with you, but here's the thing. There's no guarantee in Bitcoin. There's no guarantee in gold. There's no guarantee in silver. There's no guarantee in platinum. But there is one guarantee. The one guarantee is that the dollar will lose its buying power. That's a guarantee. And we've known that by it losing 99% of its buying power. So that's what I'm afraid of. So when it comes for me, it's building a business and having my money in tangibles, having my money in Bitcoin, and having some money on the sidelines too to play hot potato with. But knowing that fact, I guess I can't say it's a fact, but my personal opinion is that the dollar will lose its buying power. So that's what there is to be afraid of. And then on top of it, not only will the dollar lose its buying power, but the banks are not paying an interest rate to compensate for the growing inflation that they are continuing to create themselves. So the banks don't want to help anyone for the problems that they're creating. So if there was an interest rate on cash, for example, at 10%, 15%, I still really wouldn't want to hold it in a bank because, I'm not really for that and them having the custody of my money. But still, I would be skeptical, but they aren't doing that. They're not even giving you a penny on the dollar. So that's really what's more scary than holding these things. I sleep a lot better at night holding these things. And the funny thing is, like, I just don't think that there doesn't have to be so much anger and so much headbutting going on between the gold industry and Bitcoin. Like, they should be embracing each other. They're very similar. It makes a lot of sense to have an asset in the digital realm that you can put in your head. You can literally have a password in your head and board a plane and go anywhere in the world and have full access to your asset anywhere, 24/7, 365. Like, that's insane. Like, how crazy is that? Just wild to me. That once I figured out, I think what the main thing is once I figured out cold storage, and I would argue, like, if you have never been interested in Bitcoin, you never checked it out, to go to an exchange and buy $100 worth, not financial advice, but if I was just interested in Bitcoin and I wanted to learn more about it, and you're like, what are these kids into? What is this Bitcoin thing? Oh yeah, Tesla bought some Bitcoin. Let's figure out what this Bitcoin thing is. What I would ask you to do, and I would argue that Peter Schiff hasn't done this, because if he did, he'd realize how elegant it is. But to go to an exchange, buy $100 worth, not financial advice, just hypothetically, and then get a cold storage device. Order, there's the Trezor Model T. I would think the Cold Card's a really good one. The Trezor Model T is a good starter one, I would say. And learn about cold storage and just transfer that $100 from the exchange into a cold storage device. And set your own password code for it. You can basically, it gives you a seed phrase. You put a pass phrase on top of that if you want. I would say it's a good idea to do that. And then play with the wallets. Send some Bitcoin from the exchange to that wallet. Send it from that wallet to another wallet and play with it and feel the system out. And just play with a small amount of money that you can afford to lose, sort of thing. Just $100 or something, or $50 or whatever it might be, and just bounce it around and see what the transaction fees are. See how long it took to send it from one wallet to another wallet. Get comfortable with that system. And then eventually, that specifically is what made me go, wow, this is incredible. That's crazy. I could technically have $1 billion on this device if I wanted to. And it would be in full custody of me. And only I know the passwords to it. Like, that's crazy. You can't take your Apple stock off of the stock exchange. You can't just drop your Apple stock from the stock exchange and put it in there. You have to trust, when you have your money in the stock market, for example, you have to trust that TD Ameritrade or Scottrade or E-Trade or whatever, or Robinhood actually owns your shares in their brokerage, right? So they have your shares. And then if you want to sell it, you're hoping that they can sell it on the open market and then put the money from their account to your bank. So then they have to basically, if you can sell it, they have to sell it. They have to sell the position, that the security that they hold for you, sell it, and then put it via ACH, wire transfer, or check. And then you have to take that money and hopefully it gets into your bank. And then hopefully your bank is solvent to give you that money, so to speak. Whereas Bitcoin, you just have the Bitcoin. You don't have to ask permission of anybody. You have all the codes. You have all the control. If it's in an exchange, if you have your Bitcoin in Coinbase and you haven't learned how to do your own storage yet, which it's if you can figure out Instagram, if you can figure out YouTube, if you can figure out Twitter, you can figure out cold storage. If you can't figure it out, then I mean, it's not hard to figure out. There's a ton of videos on it. So that's like, there's people that'll say like, oh, it's too hard to figure out that. I don't want that kind of power. It's like, it's really, if I'm comfortable moving the amounts that I'm moving in cold storage now, trust me, you can be comfortable too. It took me like 3 weeks to figure out how to do this live stream setup and get this all dialed in. So obviously there's a bit of a learning curve going on in my little squirrel brain. So if I can figure out these things, you can figure it out too. But that would be my argument. I would beg Peter Schiff to get a cold storage device and play with it. A small amount that you can afford to lose, and just play around with it. And see, and then maybe you'll go, this isn't for me. Or maybe you'll be like I did and be like, wow, this is pretty crazy. I have all the passwords. I can keep this on this device and go anywhere in the world with this. I can take a hammer to this device and then get a new device and upload the passwords into this new device. And nobody can take it from me. Like, that's crazy. Like I've done a video with 100,000 worth of silver, which was like 400 something pounds. It was this whole desk. I can't go on a plane with that. I just can't, So when I realized that I could have all of my money in my head, I could have an asset that was in my head. It's like, I'm not all in on it, but certainly I want to have some of it. It's just crazy to me that there isn't that like that middle ground conversation being had where it's like, let's talk about it. Why not have a little bit on the balance sheet? Makes a lot of sense to have some. Doesn't make sense to be like, hey, go all in now, and the community can be really toxic. That Bitcoin maximalist community can be super toxic, but I'm someone who believes in both. So my argument a year ago when Bitcoin was 10,000 or less than 10,000 is still the same now. And I bet back then, it wasn't financial advice back then, and it's not financial advice now, but hypothetically, it would have been a good decision. Because it was an insurance play back then. And I had put like 5% in there. And then all of a sudden that 5% grew to like 50% on its own. And so it's like, okay, well, now I need to protect this. And so I learned more about cold storage, learned more about building my own node and like all these different things. And the more I learn about it, the more fascinated I become. And so I just wanted to go live and talk about this in real time because I can't edit a live stream. I can just talk about how I feel in real time on this. Now let's get to some more comments. I'm reading all the comments, by the way, guys. I'm at Vacation Time 247 says, and I'm scrolling. If you comment, I will see all of the comments. Sound Money says solid answer. That's rad. That's why I wanted to have this conversation, because if you're for only gold in the beginning, you were only for gold, and then you hear what I have to say and I hear what you have to say, and we find some middle ground, and you can come back and say solid answer. That's rad. That's what we want here, And even if you don't agree with me, then let's have a civil discussion about it, and we can kind of learn more together. Because at the end of the day, we're all libertarian mindset individuals. We all just want our individual sovereignty. Like, we're friends. Like the whole precious metals community and the Bitcoin community, they're so similar. They're like the same person. They just have different assets. So it's like, isn't there a middle ground? Like, why does Peter Schiff, like all of us combined, if all the gold, all the silver, all the platinum, all the palladium, all the precious metals in the world combined with Bitcoin, you'd be around 15 trillion. These are the potential reserve assets, right? Or just assets in general that would make sense. 15 trillion. There's $900 trillion out there looking for a safe haven to put it in the worldwide financial assets. Then there's 400 trillion in derivatives out there as well on top of that 900 trillion. And we're headbutting in this little $15 trillion subcategory here. Does that make sense? Like, no. It's gonna flow into there. It's not like it needs to be this headbutting match. It doesn't have to be that. But let's get to some more comments here. I'm gonna go on a rambling spree. But if you agree with what I'm saying, even if you disagree with what I'm saying, hit a downvote if you disagree, or write your comment out. But if you do agree and you like to have this conversation and you want this conversation to get out to more people, if you hit that like button, I got that. It's been so long since I've done this video. Where is my fancy like pillow? There it is. If you could hit that like button and help this get out to more people, it really does help with the video. We're at 52 likes. Appreciate it, guys. That's good for me being, lazy and being gone for 2 weeks. Although I say I'm lazy, if you saw my setup here and like the new computer and everything, I've been busy. It takes a while to accumulate all of these electronics, but then to learn it when you're a squirrel, it takes a while for a squirrel to learn these things. So I'm here now, but I've got the fancy Stream Deck thing. I've got the fancy setup now. So we're back. We're back with a vengeance now. Vacation Time says, what do you think will happen with Bitcoin, gold, and silver if the S&P, Dow, or NASDAQ tank? That's a good question. That's a really good question. I've been thinking about this one for a long time. Of course, it's you, Vacation Time, that asks a question like that. His comments are always the best, most thought out comments. It's such a hard question to answer. I think in that scenario, you'd want to have a bit of powder dry. Like it would make sense to have money that's like everybody, all of the most successful clients of mine, all of my most successful friends, they all have a lot of powder dry on the sidelines because they consider it like hot potato money. It's not because they're bullish on dollars. They're certainly not bullish on dollars. What it is they know if an opportunity arises, it'll make sense to play hot potato and throw that capital at that opportunity in that time period. What I think might happen is we might be in a bit of a stagflation environment, which would be best case scenario for precious metals and for Bitcoin. If a stagflation environment, which is kind of like what it is right now, where it's just kind of like staying in this middle ground type range in the stock market where everything is just wildly overvalued and makes 0 sense pretty much. Price earnings ratios just are like non-existent. If we get in that stagflation environment where we don't really know the exact damage that's being done, but I mean, we know, but not everybody knows, and it's kind of stagflation stays flat, we might see a situation where these assets detach in this environment while it's flatlining. So right now might be the best opportunity. And then when that crash happens, there'll be a bigger cushion than we expect. So for example, when I first got into Bitcoin, and by the way, I don't want to be like the guy patting his back and saying like, I bought Bitcoin all the way up. My first large position in Bitcoin was under 10,000. Then I kept buying and buying and buying. I even bought a little bit at like 60,000. So I'm a little bit down on that. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I think my like average, it's probably around like 20 something thousand, 31,000 on average or something like that for my Bitcoin. So don't think I just bought all of it down there. I was buying all the way up. But here's something interesting. Did it make sense for me to try to time that out? Or did it make sense for me just to buy it? Because it detached from 10,000 to 45,000, right? If it crashed, say the stock market crashed, maybe Bitcoin falls down to 20,000, but it still made sense for me to buy it at 10,000, right? Because they developed this cushion in a stagflation type environment. That's what I think might happen, specifically with Bitcoin. We might see a situation where it detaches in the near term before that correction. I think that correction is inevitable, but I just think that these assets might detach before that correction comes. And then when the correction comes, there might be a bit of padding. There might be more cushion there than we expect. So that would be my answer on that. That tends to be the theory that I think the most about. And what I'm preparing for myself is building a business first. I don't know why the American dream has somehow been like shifted into going to college and getting a W-2 job in a cubicle. But for me, I think for all of America prior to this college boom, it's building your own business and getting your own homestead. That's the real American dream. So just because you're in good investments, don't ever let that distract you from building. Don't ever let that distract you from building your business, building your ideas out. You know, I'm an entrepreneur. A lot of you in the audience are entrepreneurs. Whatever you're doing, don't let it distract you. Don't put your money in one place and just go, I'm done. I made good investments. I'm going to be a millionaire. I have a full Bitcoin. It's going to be $1 million in the future. Like, don't think that way. Think to yourself, how do I continue building my ideas? It's just, these are just tools to preserve your wealth. But never forget about building your ideas out. So when I take some time off doing YouTube videos or whatever it might be, it's just because I'm building my ideas or I'm investing in myself. Like I could have had, 10, 20,000 more of these assets, right? But I invested in my studio here. I wanted to I didn't need to redo the walls and stuff and do all this fancy stuff, but I have that kind of perfectionist mind and I wanted it to be nicer and I want to keep investing in myself. So it's not I don't want to be distracted by my investments. And my best advice would be never to be that person thinking like, I'm done. I got my money in the right places. I'm done. No, it's like build your business out. You might have a t-shirt company. You might have a clothing company. You might want to be involved in precious metals. You might want to be in collectibles. You might want to be a real estate agent. You might want to be a person that flips real estate houses, fixes them up and flips them. That's a pretty great business. I'm actually even interested in that one. You might be in construction, whatever it is. Don't ever let your investments distract you from building those things out. That would be my best protection idea than just for a market correction or whatever it might be. The way I've talked about it in prior videos, I'm sure you've heard these from prior videos, vacation time. And I know there's a lot of comments that have come in and I don't want to skip any. I'm pretty high up on the feed right now, so I'm going to get to everybody. I promise y'all, we're going to go through this real quick. But build your own money printer. If Jerome Powell is out there, and by the way, did you guys hear Jerome Powell is buying securities or buying positions that he already holds himself with the people's money? Did you guys see that recent headline from CNBC? The guy is buying things with our taxpayers' money that he owns and the central bankers own. Like, what? Crazy. So if they're printing money at their will, whatever they want to do with the money supply, which is why I think the money supply should be taken away from humans and governments and put into a system that's decentralized. But if they're doing that, never forget to build your own money printer. And that would be your own business or whatever it might be that no matter what is going to continuously print you fiat. We call it fiat mining. Fiat mining. Never stop fiat mining regardless of where your investments are. Keep building your fiat mine so that you can continuously print money and grow with inflation by having a business in that inflation system. So you'll charge more like everybody else is charging more sort of thing at your business. So that would be my answer in that situation. But it's a really good question. What would happen? Because in 2007 and 2008, gold and silver crashed with the market and it didn't detach. So what I would be looking for is a detachment prior to that in kind of a stagflation environment. Great question, vacation time. Johnny S. says, Rob, how do you see Bitcoin being adopted on a larger scale? Do you honestly think they would make all the holders of Bitcoin super rich. Highly unlikely. Nobody has a choice, and these on-ramps are continuing to grow. So if the Bitcoin is held in cold storage and they have it on their own, people have it on their own balance sheets. But the other aspect to it too is, say MicroStrategy, for example, converted their entire balance sheet. You got ARK Invest, has a huge position in Bitcoin, right? Kathy Wood, who was big on Tesla and stuff in the beginning, made a fortune on it. She's got a big position. I believe Chamath, Paul Hapatia from Social Capital has a huge Bitcoin investment. As more and more of these firms are buying Bitcoin, you're getting multi-billion-dollar legal teams. So it would be unconstitutional for them to ban Bitcoin, and then they would have lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit from multi-billion-dollar firms. So when you're in Bitcoin, you kind of get those billion-dollar lawyers for free in a way. So I just don't think that they would be able to do that, and I think the Supreme Court would rule that would be unconstitutional. So there's that. And then on the other end is like if countries are actually are being like El Salvador, and I mean literally you can go into El Salvador and buy McDonald's with Bitcoin. Like it's there right now. Like right now. Like that's crazy. It's not like up in the air. Like you literally can buy anything there with Bitcoin. Small country, very small country, small government. Everything's very small there, but pretty good test trial. You know, if you want a prototype test trial something, a little small country like El Salvador doing this and implementing it, it's a pretty big deal. Because now in Venezuela is, watching them close. I guarantee it. They're watching very close. Same thing with Colombia, watching very close. You're going to look at Mexico is going to be watching very close. And they all want a reserve asset just like that. So this is a reserve asset that can also be a currency. So these countries are going to be looking at that. And then on top of it, people are going to be, that are from the Bitcoin community, are going to be investing in El Salvador. And these countries are going to be jealous that people are flooding so much money into El Salvador's ecosystem because they're investing over there because they can get a permanent residency and they can invest 3 Bitcoin and get a permanent residency down in El Salvador. I think other countries are going to get jealous of that. And so really it's not like, I just don't think it's going to be able to be stopped, and it's already past that threshold. So that would be I think we already talked about that question, but I just wanted to continue, elaborate a little bit more on it. USDT is connected to Evergrande's collapse. Check Dr. Burry's tweets. Yeah, Dr. Burry, he's been short on a lot of things for a long time. He's been right about a lot of things, and he's been wrong about a lot of things as well. I think that he might not understand that the intricacies of being able to store the Bitcoin off these exchanges and in your own cold storage, the fact that it's finite. There's a lot of different aspects that he's not looking at. But yes, there is a bit of skepticism going on with the stablecoin environment. It's a really, really long answer for that with the stablecoins, a long answer that I'm still learning about myself. But just because something on the outside of Bitcoin, which is stablecoins, is there, I don't believe that it affects the Bitcoin for what Bitcoin is. It's not like they're not the same thing. It's just something that you can cash out on and hold on the side, or you can buy Bitcoin with. That itself might be sketchy, but it's not. Bitcoin is a different thing. So I just don't see that. I just don't see it being as relevant as people think. EMP, who wins? And that. Do any of us really want to have to? In that scenario, though, it wouldn't be, because it's decentralized, it would have to be I think it would have to be the entire globe, because eventually you would be able to get a device again and upload your password into that device. So I just don't think that there would be a miner somewhere in the world. So I think everything stays around. Just the world would really be rough. Like everything would be rough, like terrible. Getting food. I mean, in that situation, you'd be more worried about water and food and shelter and stuff like that. God, I can only imagine living in like a big city or something like that. Could you imagine? Like to get out of the city, there'd just be like a jam of cars trying to get out on the freeways and stuff. Like you just couldn't get out. Scary. I mean, that's just like one of those scenarios where it's like, that's just bad for everybody and everything. Eric Bao says, I want to get to the bottom of these. I like the platinum videos you did. Isn't the market cap for that tiny compared to gold? I heard it could go down, go up to 30K. What was your opinion? What has changed in the horse in the race? Honestly, platinum, I'm buying right now. Like, I think platinum is ridiculously low. Platinum should be much, much higher. And it's one of those situations like if there is something that is going to be needing a lot of platinum, and I would argue that there is going to be something, with it getting this low, it's just not possible for the demand, that supply to be there for the demand in the future. It's just way too low. I personally I'm very bullish on platinum. I think it's just far too cheap. Everyone can agree on that. It will lose its value. Okay. Well, I'm really high up here. I gotta go down this list a little bit. I'm gonna scroll to the bottom, so we're kind of, or I'm gonna go through a couple. I'm gonna see how much % of your net worth is in precious metals and how much % is in Bitcoin. Honestly, I couldn't give you an exact figure right now because things have changed so much. But my business is different than my personal holdings. So my LLC is different than my personal holdings. I'll make a video in the future with more detail on that. It's just, I don't have the exact data on it, but it's pretty close to 50-50, I would say. If you consider what my LLC, because I have an LLC that only I own as well. So that's separate than my personal. Power Grid would eventually come back. Okay, we're back to the bottom. Super chat from Droopy. Hey, I appreciate you doing a super chat. And Ace gave me a super chat too. What's up, Ace? Okay, so this new chat thing, it puts like a little highlight, but it's like a little bit different than the normal one. So I didn't notice it at first. Ace Gnosis says, got to get back to the lives. Well, I hope that the quality of this live, and if the sound sounds good, if the audio is good. If you remember when I was doing the lives, they were getting all cut, they were getting all chopped up. So I spent a lot of time. I made sure that I have like just so you know how detailed I got with it, I made sure my cables were all the Cat 8 cables, because I guess I was using Cat 5 cables, which isn't the same as a Cat 8 cable for the Ethernet connection. So I made sure I got all Cat 8 cables to every single device. Everything is all direct Ethernet connection, new routers, new everything. Completely went into the back end of everything, made sure the whole server was dialed in, and then use the Cat 8 cables, and then on top of it, bought the new software to do the live stream. So this is I'm completely new to this, where I like click a button on this Stream Deck thing, have a little Stream Deck tool thing on the side here where you can actually even see the viewers on the Stream Deck thing. I wonder if I could, it might be too far to bring it into, yeah, there we go. Hang on. See, I got this little thing, real fancy. But I spent a lot of time on the live stream. So I am back, Ace, and I appreciate you, man. Thank you for the super chat. It means a lot to me. I'm with you, Rob. It's best to hold and learn about both. Right on, Superman. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the best thing you could do with Bitcoin is just get a small amount of it and play with it. Get a cold storage device, throw $100 on it, and play with it, and see how you feel about it. And you might not like it. Or you might really like it, like I did. And then learn more and more about it, to the point from a year and a half ago when I first got into Bitcoin. Keep in mind, you guys are kind of on the journey with me. Because it's not like I'm somebody that was in Bitcoin when it was a few $100s. You know, I got into Bitcoin about a year and a half ago. So you're on the journey with me. And right now on this journey, I've learned everything about cold storage, I think. I'm pretty dialed in on cold storage, all the way to like multi-sig, passphrases, all of that stuff. Got my cold storage pretty dialed in. Played with pretty much every cold storage device. Now, the point where I'm at is building my own node to verify the Bitcoin that I hold in cold storage. So I actually have like a little mini computer called a node. So if you want to look that up, I highly recommend, by the way, in like every room that I'm in, because I have the squirrel brain, I have to have a pen and pad. So if you write down, like if I was watching this video, I'd be writing down, look into what a node is. Look into what cold storage is. Small amount from Exchange to send and play with in cold storage. Like write these things down and then look them up on your own and study it yourself. And don't take my word for it. Don't trust, verify, as people would say in the Bitcoin community. But I appreciate this is a great discussion to have, because, you know, most of the people that are on here I think most of us are kind of in the middle, like I am, you know, where we have a bit of both. But even if you're skeptical, like it's great to voice your opinion and we can all kind of chat about it. Vape Keen says, owning stocks is owning small portions of businesses that generally go up as a business grows and profits. However, Bitcoin and gold are simply storage with no business growth behind them. That's true. You know, hypothetically, it's true. I mean, it's true, and it's also hypothetically true in a way, because are these stocks valued correctly? Like, yeah, they have an underlying business, but at some point there's a detachment where the valuation doesn't really make much sense. If you have a price earnings ratio that's literally non-existent or is in like the hundreds or thousands, I mean, the business is kind of overvalued. So there's a lot to be said there based on the valuation of it. So hypothetically, yes, but also look into the details of the companies. You can make a good investment and you can make a bad investment. But if the whole market is in a free fall type situation and people are trying to cash out, the other aspect is the underlying instrument of these companies is dollars. So if that underlying instrument, if there's a problem with that unit of measure, which they're valued in dollars unless they have Bitcoin on their balance sheet like MicroStrategy, that's scary. You know, if something happened to the dollar where the dollar index corrected, people don't take into consideration that the stocks are valued in that instrument of measure. So if you hold stocks in the stock market, you better be watching that dollar index because that's what it's valued in. Like it's that simple. And a lot of people overlook that. You'd be surprised how many people overlook that the dollar can be volatile itself. So remember what the unit of measure is. Always look at the market cap. Always look at the details of a company that you're investing in, especially in this environment, because it's at such inflated levels that I think we're reaching more of a stagflation type environment. Somebody had brought up deflation, which I'd like to talk about too, but I want to get through all these comments first. That was Vape King's comment. Now, Christian Wine says, hey, watching your videos, have started stacking silver and gotten into Bitcoin cold storage. Thanks for the financial education, brother. Hey, right on, man. That hypes me up. Thank you for being here. Dow and all indexes are going down right now. Maybe this is the beginning of a long expected crash. It could be, or it could be kind of a drawn out stagflation type environment. That would be where I think it is personally. I think also like Lynn Alden has been saying that as well. So I would tend to agree. That's what I think is the situation that we're in. Silver versus Bitcoin. I'm both. I like both. I think silver, they're just giving away silver and platinum right now. Like if I had to choose, the reason I'm able to comfortably say that I like Bitcoin better than gold is because if I'm choosing between gold or a different precious metal, I'm going to choose silver, platinum, palladium, rhodium before I choose gold. I think that they're way more, the market cap of those metals is way less, and we know more about those market caps than we know about gold's market cap, which is remarkably higher. And they're industrial precious metals that are getting eaten up by industry by over 50% of the metal year over year. So it's like I would much rather be there than gold. So I'm comfortable in saying I like Bitcoin more than gold, but I would never get rid of my precious metals with utility because those are like my bank account in a way. I'm still in the middle ground space where I'm not all in on Bitcoin and have more Bitcoin than I ever thought I would own because I got in a little bit early and I've had a bit of conviction with the Bitcoin trade. So that's kind of where I am right now. But I would say the funny thing is, even when I like this title on this video is Bitcoin versus gold, it's really Bitcoin and gold. I just think that Bitcoin is a faster horse in the race. Like, I don't think that I mean, in the near term, you might see $1 trillion or $2 trillion come off of gold's market cap and go into Bitcoin. But in the long term, I think they all kind of go up in unison. I just think Bitcoin is remarkably like misunderstood right now and could be a much faster horse in the race. And it's a good idea to have some of your asset to be stored in your brain. Like we store our silver, our gold and stuff. I don't believe in blockchain-based gold and silver. I think that's foolish to trust a custodian, right? We have that. It would also make sense. And if you've stored that and you've gone through getting the right safe, maybe you have a TL30 safe like I do, you have a fancy safe and you got all that dialed in, you know how much effort it is to preserve and be the reserve bank and have your actual asset near you and secure it. You should be doing the same thing with your Bitcoin. And the cool thing about your Bitcoin is if you memorize your passwords, you have access to that asset 24/7, 365 anywhere in the world. Like you can't, if you have $1 million in gold, you can't exactly take $1 million and put it in your briefcase. It's a big attack point, to have $1 million sitting on you in a briefcase. Whereas with your Bitcoin, nobody knows if you have $1 million in your brain. Nobody knows what you got. But with the gold, you'd have that briefcase with $1 million in it. And then also you're not gonna be able to board a plane with that kind of money in a briefcase. So it's like, the transporting aspect of it is where I think Bitcoin really shines. And I just think that it's great to have both. Like, I don't see there a reason to be so negative. Because if one succeeds, I mean, if Bitcoin succeeds, you're looking at like 100x. It could literally 100x from here, which people think is crazy to think, okay, this can get to a $50 trillion cap. Yeah, right. Well, there's 900 trillion out there that's looking for a digital place to park their money. It's very possible for that kind of wormhole to open and make Bitcoin this ridiculously high valued asset. So it would make sense to have, 5% on the balance sheet. Like, for example, back at 10,000, if someone had 5% on their balance sheet, now that position is worth like 25% of their balance sheet because they had an insurance play at 5%. Now that's up to like 25%. Did they originally want 25% of Bitcoin on their balance sheet? No, but Bitcoin succeeded. So now it's at 25% of their balance sheet. So it made sense to have it as an insurance play. And it continues to eat up other positions on the balance sheet because it continues to perform really well. To put it into perspective, if Bitcoin has the same performance that it had over the last 365 days, so 365 days prior to today, 1 year ago prior to today, if it did another year in the future, 365 days in the future, it would be 5x roughly higher, about $250,000 a coin. So to people that think the performance wasn't great over the last year, that's what the performance of Bitcoin was. If it does it again, what it did over the last year, if it does it again over the next year, it'll be roughly $250,000 a coin, $200K to $250,000 per Bitcoin, if it does the same performance as it did over the last year. Something to think about. So do I think it's something that I want to be all in on right now? I'm not quite there yet. I have more Bitcoin than I ever thought I would have, but I definitely don't like seeing the crazy divide between the precious metals community and the Bitcoin community, because I'm looking for Mineral Exchange. Like I've had the website down for a while because I'm doing stuff on the back end, but I want to start accepting it and holding it on the balance sheet. Like I would like to, and imagine how many businesses are going to be doing that. How many people are going to be willing to sell a Rolex and hold the Bitcoin on their balance sheet and not have to go through a bank? Because I'll tell you what, I'm really sick of the bank's wire transfers. I'm really sick of them. They charge me way too much money. They give me no interest on my capital. They treat me like really bad. I don't really like the banks. So I would much rather be in full control of my money. Also, I'm not very certain that these banks are solvent. They might say they're solvent, but I'm not certain, because if everybody went to the bank to get their money out, they wouldn't have the money to provide them. So knowing that, do I want to trust them? Like the dollar's already been wildly diluted, and then the banks are we don't even know if they're solvent, especially if everybody wants their money out of the banks. They might be insolvent, which would be very scary. And then you'd see lines out the door 6 feet apart down the block to get your money, out if they're open. I mean, I'm not very comfortable with that. So I want for Mineral Exchange, and I think a lot of other collectible companies are going to want to start holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet, which is funny because that's a merger. That's the best of both worlds, where we just don't want to, if we're having money in the digital realm, gold and silver can't be digital. In my personal opinion, I don't think it can be digital, because then we're trusting a custodian again. And every single time we've trusted a custodian, they've ran off with the money. So in the digital realm, it's a perfect thing to have something completely decentralized that we know is limited, and we can hold it in our own device. We don't have to trust their crazy system. And when you look at it like a high-end wire transfer, like a better wire transfer, it makes you realize that it's not meant to be something that you just go buy your coffee with. Now the Lightning Network came out, so you actually can use the Lightning Network to buy your coffee with and all of that, which is what they're doing in El Salvador, which is amazing that even exists. But I look at it like a great wire transfer mechanism for businesses, and I think that's why MicroStrategy has accumulated, I think it's like 110,000 or 111,000 something Bitcoin, because they believe that it's going to be that in the future. It's going to be their holdings. They're valuing themselves in Bitcoin, which I think is brilliant. That's how I look at it, I guess. For a rant on that subject. Generation Bitcoin with Matt James. What's up, Matt? Alternative to fiat is a huge use case, hundreds of trillions of dollars worth. Agreed. Almost 100 people watching. It's 2:30 a.m. in Toronto, Canada. Right on. Yeah, how many? Yeah, we got 107 people in here. Right on. Not bad. Not bad for live stream. I haven't been on the live stream thing in a long time, so I apologize for being gone for so long. But if I came back and my setup was really rough and I didn't fix the live stream, then you could definitely blast me. And I still deserve to be, people to say, hey, where have you been? What's going on? But trust me, when I'm gone, I'm working. Like I'm putting in work. If you saw how much I put in on the setup here and like redesign, I actually posted a picture on the Instagram. I also launched a new podcast channel. So in the description down here, if you're not subscribed to the new podcast, If you go to the description, there's a link in the description of this video, and I dropped a new podcast channel where I'm going to be interviewing people from the Bitcoin space, from the precious metal space, in more of kind of like a Joe Rogan type format of 2 hours, an hour, 2-3 hours in these podcasts. So I've been learning how to use that and do these interviews live. So like I have my setup right here, and then I have the monitor right above it. So like if I'm looking at myself, or normally I'd be looking at the person I'm interviewing right now, so my eyeballs would be like slightly over the camera sort of thing. So I've been dialing in this setup and getting this all ready to go. But I launched the podcast. There's the first video I did like 2 weeks ago there, and I'm going to continue doing stuff like that. And so that's what I'm working on. I'm also working on a clips channel as well to take clips out of the interviews, take clips out of these live streams, and just do short clips as well. So trust me, when I come back, I'm going to be doing a lot more content. So if you're not subscribed to the channels, would really appreciate you subscribing to the channels. The clips channel hasn't been dropped yet, but the podcast channel has, and it's only like 133 people have subscribed to it so far. So I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to that channel to help that grow and get out to more people. Because if that channel grows like my channel here has, that means I can bring more like kind of high profile guests for everybody. And trust me, I'm going to be asking the hard questions when I start doing the interviews. Like it's not going to be easy to do an interview with me. So I'm excited to kind of do this type of a format where it's an unedited format where we're able to kind of get people's real perspectives and not be all overly edited. I don't have a staff. It's just me here. And I do videos like this where it's just completely unedited. And I'm excited to do the podcast because it's kind of fun to interview people. Although I talk a lot, so I have to drop my ego down a bit and be able to ask questions. So that interview I just did, I rewatched it and I'm going, I'm not an interviewer. I have a big ego and I talk too much. Like I got to calm that down and not talk so much. So I'm getting used to it. There's a learning curve, but I'm excited to do to do that. Do you think silver and gold will break below recent support levels? Silver 22, gold 1750. I mean, if it does, the premiums will skyrocket, I think. I think with silver specifically, they're just like silver. It's, in my personal opinion, not financial advice, it's like a gift right now. So if there was one thing that I'm trying to get more fiat together for, it's to, if Bitcoin continues to dip down to 45K, 44, 43, if it gets to the lower 40Ks, I'm looking to buy more Bitcoin or more. One thing, the only stock I'm interested in right now is MicroStrategy, because it's just, they're holding way too much Bitcoin for their valuation. And I did a whole video on that if you want to watch that. I won't go into it because we still have to get to more comments here. But I think that it's a great buy right now, personally, not financial advice. Silver and platinum, it's like a steal. Even palladium is really, really getting low right now for how much it's being eaten up by industry right now. I would much rather be in silver and palladium and platinum than gold. Carl Star says, I thought Rob stopped streaming because he bought at 60K and couldn't face the haters. Oh, I can face them because I bought also at 10K. I bought most of mine a lot lower than that, but I was buying all the way up. That just goes to prove it. Like I did. I've been buying Bitcoin continuously as I can afford it. I think that it's a great buy. I think it's still a great insurance play. Actually, I'm past insurance now. I think for someone just getting into it, it's great to look at it as insurance, but I look at it as like a global reserve asset, the perfect global reserve asset where we actually have real checks and balances. Like we don't really know who owns what gold. Like we don't know how much gold we even own in the US. Like they haven't even released that. We don't know how much gold we have here. Like, does anybody know how much gold is in Fort Knox? I don't. You know, does anybody know how much gold the Queen owns? Like, I don't. None of us know. They just give us some rough number. Like nobody knows how much gold China owns or Russia, or nobody knows. So it's like, that's scary to me. But with Bitcoin, you would know, or you would at least be able, you might not be able to know exactly who owns what wallet, but you know that Bitcoin exists and you know it can't get more than a certain amount. So as a unit of measure, and then the fact that the big thing is everybody has their mind wrapped around like, wait, you can't have a unit of measure that's only 18 million or that can get to 21 million. That's not possible. It's like, no, it can be divided by Satoshis. It's the real unit of measure of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just the whole unit. The real unit of measure is Satoshis underneath Bitcoin, which is 100 million units. Again, to break that down, is if you have $1 million Bitcoin, that's a 1 cent Satoshi. That's the real unit of measure. Now, when you realize how divisible it is from Satoshis, it's like, wow. okay, it's really divisible. It's a lot more divisible than gold, a lot more. It has better accounting, fair checks and balances. It's easy as can be to audit it. We haven't even audited the gold that we know about. So we don't know how much of their gold is really real gold or has tungsten in it or whatever. It's so hard to audit gold. But with Bitcoin, you can just check Block Explorer. Like you can audit it in a snap of the fingers. The auditing of it. So as a checks and balances layer for a digital reserve asset, if we're going into the digital age, we know gold can never be a digital gold, because if it's a digital gold, we're trusting some Brinks or some custodian that could lose the gold or get or steal it. You know, like ironically enough, like Nixon did in 1971, he stole it. So every time we trusted somebody to hold our gold, they stole it. So we can't have a blockchain-based gold like Peter Schiff says. That's impossible, because that's literally the definition of insanity. It's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. If you're going to own gold, own it yourself. Where you hold it, you own it, you have the real thing. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. And don't trust some ETF. Don't trust, some random custodian. You know that this this custodian company, what is it? Can something, I don't want to say the name of it, but she reached out to me like 8 times. And every single time I'm like, I'm not representing your company. I think blockchain-based gold is possibly the most foolish idea ever. Like, I would never trust you to hold my gold for me and then you give me a token. Like, that's not the way this works. Bitcoin is an asset itself. The digital asset is the asset in the digital realm. It's not a token to be dispersed upon. The difference is, most of these tokens, they said there's 1 billion tokens, and they just came up with 1 billion tokens. They didn't mine it. They didn't work for it. There isn't computer systems working for it, paying electrical bills, building out systems behind this thing. That there isn't actual work that went into it. The proof of work model of Bitcoin is far different than the proof of stake model, or these systems where they just put the tokens out there in the beginning and it was already pre-mined. I don't want some pre-mined token that's back to their gold in their vaults. I don't trust them. Why would I do that? Do you think we're fools or something? Like, you hold the gold and you give me a digital token that's pre-mined for the gold? And you think I'm going to advertise for you? Do they watch my videos? I don't know. But they've sent me like 8 emails. You're the perfect mixture between crypto and gold, and we want you to advertise our blockchain-based gold. We'll give you this much money. It's going to be a paid gig, Rob. Take us up for it. It's like, no, I don't want your money, and I'm never going to do that. It makes me mad. So anti-advertisement for you. Anti-advertisement. Not only will I not take your money, but I will anti-advertise for you, blockchain-based gold companies. So if that doesn't tell you guys, I mean, in my video, I didn't say, cut this video off. This video is brought to you by some VPN company. Like, no, I don't do that. And I just really won't do that for something I don't believe in. So if we know that these digital golds won't work because we don't trust a custodian, if you are keen to actually understanding what being a reserve bank is and owning it yourself, you're going to own the real gold bar, which is what I would recommend, is own the real thing. If you're going to own gold, own the real thing. If you're going to own silver, own the real thing. Platinum, own the real thing. Don't own some derivative. Don't own some token that they hold the gold for you. What if they lose the gold out of that vault? Oh, it's insured. Yeah, who's insuring it? What if the dollars that, like FDIC insured? Okay, sure. It's insured by the people. Like, who insures it really? So I don't buy that. I don't buy that one bit. I'll get riled up about it. So if you don't hold it, you don't own it. I agree with that. But if we know that it can't be digitalized, then why would it not make sense to have a digital layer in a portfolio? Like, we know gold shouldn't be digitalized. It doesn't make sense to trust a custodian. Look, who's the custodian for silver, for SLV? It's JP Morgan, who's been caught multiple times for felonies for manipulating the silver market. Like, they're the custodian. You want to hold them? You want them to be your digital silver? Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense at all, actually. It makes sense to take the silver from them and hold it yourself. That's the real movement, not just buying some ETF. Even PSLV. PSLV is much better than SLV, but I still wouldn't even want it with them. I want to hold the real thing. So I don't believe in any, I believe that there isn't a possible way to digitalize the metals. So if we know that, then why would we not want a digital asset where we can be the reserve bank ourselves in addition to our tangibles? It just makes so much sense to me. Even if it's wrong, even if it goes to zero, it makes sense as an insurance play to have some on the balance sheet in the digital realm, because I can have my asset in my head anywhere in the world, and I don't have to trust somebody else to be the custodian of it. I'm the custodian of it. It's just how I look at it. The studio is dope. Looks really cool. Hey, I appreciate it. Vacation time. Yeah, VT, it really does seem like a scheme. I mean, and they were pushing me hard to advertise for them. I think they would have paid me a lot of money. So guys, like, I turned down a lot of money. I don't really need it. I don't really care. I'm not going to be like, what I've realized at this point in my life, like, do I want a bunch of money quick right now? Or do I just want to enjoy my life and make videos and not put a bunch of advertisements in them? And like, I'm going to do that and then hope the money comes later or something. Like, that's kind of my strategy. I don't want to take on, like, just when my channel is getting started, once I broke out to over like 20,000 subscribers on here, which is just crazy to think about. I don't want to just all of a sudden sell out and just have a bunch of like advertisements, especially ones that I don't agree with. So if you're watching this as an advertiser, just know, if I don't like your product, if you send an email to me and I don't like your product, you will probably get blasted on a live stream. So you have been warned. I'm anti making money around here, I guess. I just shut everything down. Make videos, but that's just how I roll in here. And I hope you guys can tell that that's just the way I am. Flip the hourglass over. Oh, the hourglass is over again. Where are we at? Where are we at on the likes? I gotta be that person to be like from like a stream, you know, it's like one of those Twitch streams or whatever. It's like, if I get to this many likes, I'll flip it over. If I get to this many likes, you know. But seriously, if we get to 100 likes, I'll flip it over again. If we get to 100 likes, I'll flip it over again and I'll stay for another 30 minutes. How about that? But I really enjoy having these conversations because, I mean, we're all from the metals industry in here, and it's just cool to be able to talk to people that are very anti-Bitcoin, in addition to Bitcoiners that are very anti-gold. I mean, I have both on my page, and I'm somewhere in the middle, so it's nice to be able to have these civil conversations where one of us doesn't act like a know-it-all. You know, like when I saw another debate with Peter Schiff, I think it was on like Peter McCormick's channel or something like that, and both sides just act like they know it all. You know, like, yeah, I know everything about Bitcoin and gold's wrong. And then you got Peter Schiff, I know everything about gold and Bitcoin's wrong. And it's like, you don't have somebody that's like, I'm not certain. Let's talk about it. You know, like, where's that going on? I just don't see it. And so like I forget where the saying goes, but the most wise person is the one that says they're not the most wise person. You know, like, I'm still learning new stuff every day, and I'm just sharing stuff in real time. Everybody that watches my channel is really on the journey with me. I didn't even have a big position in Bitcoin a year ago. Like, you know, it's like a year and a half ago. So I'm just learning and putting this information out there as I learn, so we can all kind of be on the journey together. But I never want to come across as somebody that's like, I know all answers. Like, you're all wrong, and only I know these answers. Yeah, and that's what I see Peter Schiff doing. It's like, Peter, have you played with a cold storage? Have you bought a little bit from an exchange and sent it into a cold storage and actually understood what it's like to be a reserve bank with Bitcoin and have the custody of it? Do you realize that he says it constantly in these debates? It's like, he knows that custodians always steal the gold or they lose the gold. They do one or the other throughout the history of mankind, you know, humankind. You know, it's like there's never been a situation where that's worked. They've always lost it, or they steal it. So why would we trust a custodian with our gold again? But this is something Peter Schiff says. He says, yeah, trust the ETFs. Yeah, trust Brinks. Get digital gold. It's like, no, I want the real thing. And if I'm going to have something digital, I'm going to have Bitcoin. It's that simple. So I just don't see the argument there, but that's just how I feel about it. Let me go through some more comments here. Did I miss? If I missed a super chat, Tim Goodson says, yeah, I did miss a couple super chats, so I got to get to these super chats. I don't want to, I ramble too much, guys. I apologize. I really appreciate you guys doing those super chats. Luke says, have you heard and looked into Hex? I have heard about Hex, but I'm not well informed enough to comment on it. I will look more into it and then be able to comment on it. So I don't want to be able to say something like ignorantly. The way I look at it, though, is like the problem is not programming the money. The problem isn't like what platform you can build with the money. I think the problem is just the money itself. Like for the reserve bank, for a reserve digital asset, that's the biggest problem in the world today. So when I see like Ethereum, for example, I don't value it as money. I value it strictly as a utility. So it's like a small company in my mind. And when I'm valuing it for its utility, it's not worth what it's valued at in the hundreds of billions. Only gold is worth, only Bitcoin is worth that because it's kind of a digital gold where it can have that multi-trillion-dollar valuation. I just don't see these altcoins having anything that's worth what their market cap is. So that's just how I look at it. Like the Bitcoin is perfect as a checks and balances. So really the problem isn't programming the money. The problem is the money. The problem is having sound money in the digital realm. That's the problem. And Bitcoin solved that problem. It's like you don't come out with a different internet. You build layers on the internet. You build platforms on the internet. So it's like I see Bitcoin as the internet. I don't need a different internet. The internet's perfect. Like I like the internet. We could have a faster internet so it gets more advanced, and that's why like the Lightning Network came on and they put layers on the internet where you have more layers, but the internet's the internet. And so Bitcoin started it all, and it's like, to me, it's like the internet that there needs to be layers built upon. So I just don't see these other altcoins having viability. And I've thought about it for a long time. For as long as I've been in this. And the more I talk with people that have been in it a lot longer than I have, it furthers my conviction on that. Because the problem isn't as big as people think it is. It's a big problem, but it's just not as complex. Sound money, that's the problem. Fair checks and balances, that's the problem. Being able to hold it in your own custody and verify it in your own custody and have it be a reserve bank, that's the problem. So if you're valuing these altcoins strictly on the utility, then they're overvalued. Like what is Ethereum worth if it's only being valued for its utility? Is it worth hundreds and hundreds of billions? I doubt it. Because it's being valued. First, it's getting like a unit bias. So people are buying Ethereum and buying altcoins because they think in their mind they can't afford a full Bitcoin. Like, oh, Bitcoin's 45K, I'm going to buy this because it's so much cheaper. I can afford so much more of it. Well, if you look at Bitcoin like Satoshis, if you look at it like 100 million Satoshis and you realize that it's divisible in that very, very small unit, and you buy 1 million Satoshis, it gets that unit bias that Ethereum and these other altcoins have enjoyed. But I just don't see anything as being a reserve asset in Bitcoin. And that's the biggest problem. So I just don't see their viability and use case or any of that. We don't need programming the money is cool and all, but it's just a utility. It's not, it doesn't deserve the valuations that it has, in my personal opinion. That's how I look at these altcoins. But again, I need to do a lot more research on it. So I can't say more than I know, but I can just tell you why I have so much conviction on Bitcoin, because it solves the huge problem that needs to be solved. That's how I look at it. And I don't have anything but Bitcoin. So that's where I am now. It's an Matt Generation Bitcoin with Matt James. We have a Bitcoiner in the house, so you're helping people and helping me say these points in the comments. I appreciate it. But I look at it the same way as you, Matt, I'm sure. But I'd still want to hear from everybody, because it's fair. It's good to have the conversation about it. I don't want to just, bash on everything other than Bitcoin. I would like to hear from other people and talk about it. Oh, I can click add to broad. I got to look into that for the next live stream. I got to look at that, because I can add to broadcast. Like I can put someone's comment in the actual video. That's pretty cool. Tim Goodson, he gave me a super chat. I appreciate it, Tim. He says, Bitcoin versus platinum. I'm both. I can't say Bitcoin versus platinum, because platinum isn't considered a reserve asset right now. I think it could be. I think of all metals, like platinum makes the best reserve asset because it hasn't been mined yet, and it's much more hard to fake a platinum bar than a gold. I've gone into that, and I could do a whole video on that. I've done like 30-minute hour videos on that subject with platinum, but I'm always going to have a large platinum holding. I like platinum too much. It's just so cheap right now. I want more platinum, but I also want more Bitcoin. So it's like I'm holding things that I want to keep myself. So that's hard for me to do a versus battle on that. But maybe one day I'll talk about that in like more of a long video. But I've made videos on both subjects. Smart contracts are being done on top of Bitcoin, the most secure base layer. See, Matt, I totally agree with you, man. I totally agree with you. I just like to have an open conversation, and I would love to chat more with you on it. But it's basically like, I think you see it the same way, whereas I see Bitcoin as the internet. Like, I don't need another internet. The internet is good. Like, you put layers on top of it. And what Matt James just brought up, Generation Bitcoin with Matt James, he says this is the most secure base layer, and then smart contracts are being deployed on top of Bitcoin. So that's how I see it as well. Like, when I just said, I see it as the internet, I just see it as the internet, and there's going to be layers built upon it to make it even better. And it's funny because these layers are being built upon it, and it's removing up clog in layer 1. So layer 1 is actually like cheaper to send now because of Lightning. And if more stuff is moving around the Lightning network, it clears out space in layer 1, so layer 1 can have more movement, and it's easier to use layer 1. So it's like as it gets built upon, it just gets better and better and better. Like when the internet rolled out from the 90s till now, it got a lot better. In the beginning, it was really bad, and then now it's gotten ridiculously good on the internet. But we didn't need to change the whole internet. We just kept adding to the internet. So I totally see it the same way as you, Matt. I appreciate you bringing that up. I think I got all the super chats, so I don't want anybody to do a super chat and me to miss out on those or not to bring you up. So I appreciate it. I'm going to scroll to the bottom here, but if you do a super chat, I will not miss your comment. And if I did, let me know in a comment. I really appreciate those because it adds up and it means a lot to me. The funny thing is, like, every dollar I've ever made off YouTube, I invest right back into my set, mainly because I don't want to pay taxes, but not mainly, but as part of it. But I always invest into the set. I never take money and put it in my pocket. Like, that's not what I do with any of my YouTube money. All I do is this stuff gets expensive, like building this set out and buying the Stream Deck and this fancy road. Like I thought when I first started YouTube, I'm like, I'll just take my iPhone and I'll make YouTube videos. That won't be hard. I didn't think about lighting. I didn't think about some fancy Joe Rogan mic. Even the stand to hold the mic, the Rodecaster Pro, the Mac with the M1 chip or whatever down there. Making sure I have the right Cat 8 cables to go from the router. Making sure I have the right router. Making sure I have the high speed internet. Making sure the monitors are there. The stand. It's there's so much that goes into it. It's like, man, this has been a learning curve, this whole YouTube thing. But just know, every dollar I make off of this, I put it back into my set, and I don't even take money from advertisers. So the super chats, it means a lot to me. I appreciate you guys doing that. Does the wall glow, or is it that lighting? It's lights on the bottom. And I'm actually thinking about putting those lights on the top, hanging them. So I actually even have a remote where I can change the colors of the lights and stuff. And then I got my maglev light bulb over there with some crystals and stuff. I'm weird. So I like having little the knickknacks. SD says Hex is a scam, Ponzi scheme. I can't comment on it because I haven't done enough research into it. But I wouldn't invest in anything but Bitcoin personally. I don't see any viability to have the valuations that these companies have. It's funny. I look at crypto we say cryptocurrency, and it's really just crypto asset. And notice how I said asset. I didn't say assets. It's just there's crypto asset. That's what Bitcoin is. It's just crypto asset. That can be a currency. That's how I look at it. And so you look at the whole crypto space as not cryptocurrency, you look at it as crypto asset, then it's just Bitcoin. And so that's how I look at it. I just say crypto asset and it's Bitcoin. And then we expand on Bitcoin. All these other altcoins, I just don't see the viability in them. I don't see it. And so maybe one day I do, but as of right now, I don't want anything to do with them. I don't have any altcoins, and I don't plan on ever having any altcoins. But I will look into them. I'll look into them. I'll read into them. I guess the other thing I should bring up is that I hold a bit of a bias, I guess, because if I was in the way I look at it is so a lot of the Bitcoin maximalists, they can get really, really, really toxic. I try to not be in that space. I try to be a little bit more open-minded, although I see myself gravitating towards having that kind of toxicity where Bitcoin is only the only answer. But what I do see is all these other tokens and stuff are part of this. I see them as rivers and streams, and they're super volatile, and they're bashing water around in these hillsides, and there's these rivers and streams, and it's all going to head into the ocean that waits patiently underneath it. And that's Bitcoin. So it's Bitcoin is the ocean. Now, can you make money in those rivers and streams that are inevitably going to kind of end up in the Bitcoin ecosystem? Because when people it's ironic because people make money in the NFTs or they'll make money in some other altcoin, and they park the profits in Bitcoin often. I'll hear that in the communities. I'll bounce around the Twitter communities, and I'll basically go into these different Twitter spaces where they're talking about NFTs or they're talking about altcoins, and I'll go into different spaces and hear from them. And they all tend to like to hold their profits in Bitcoin. So it kind of emphasizes that point, I guess. So if I wasn't in the stage of my life now where I know that if I just have conviction, like if I make, even if I lower the bar down to like 10, 20, 30% a year annually on my net worth sort of thing, or even just my position in Bitcoin, then I'll be able to have my quality of life forever. I could be retired. So for me, it's just about having conviction in what I believe is correct. And so I believe Bitcoin is correct. Just like I believe silver is correct and I believe platinum is correct. I believe Bitcoin in the digital realm is correct. And so I just want to put my money there and not put it anywhere else, because I'm in the stage of my life where I don't really need to play with crazy amounts of volatility and take extreme risk like I would have in the beginning. So I guess my point is, if I didn't have a nest egg put together yet, maybe I would be trading right now. Maybe I would be and trying to get money together or whatever to buy more Bitcoin, because it would be like, okay, I can get into this and then sell it out for that, or maybe I can make these kind of NFTs and sell them at the market for that and take that money and put it into Bitcoin. If I was still scraping together my nest egg money, maybe I would be more interested in them. But because I just want to hold something that I believe in and I think will inevitably win, that's why I have so much conviction in Bitcoin. So that would be why I have a bit of an open mind, because I'm not in the stage of the game where I want to be, into these, I don't want to call them all pumps and dumps, but a lot of them are. And so maybe there's money to be made there in the penny stocks of the crypto world, but I don't want anything to do with them myself right now until I see something that I think is worthwhile. But I don't see anything worthwhile personally other than Bitcoin. You're investing. All right, I'm back. I'm at the bottom of the chats now. So we're at the bottom of the chat. So if you guys put a comment in, I'm at the bottom of the chats. I didn't miss any super chats. So if I missed your super chat, let me know. But I made sure I didn't miss any of them, and I'm at the bottom now. So I'm gonna go to all new comments now. Carl's mad that I'm a maxi. See, that's how you know I don't. People can not be on my team or not see what I'm doing as the right thing or whatever, but I'm not going to silence anybody. I don't even have a moderator, so any comment goes here. So if you want to criticize me, you're more than welcome to. But I'm here to just kind of talk. Jay Lee, I just scrolled to the bottom, so if you want to retype it, I'm looking at the bottom. Carl says, not mad, bro, just funny. Well, he's not a maxi. He owns metals. Yeah, I mean, Matt, it's so weird because like the definition of a maxi seems to be changing a little bit. Like a Bitcoin maximalist tends to be all in, only 100% Bitcoin, like literally their entire net worth, everything they own in Bitcoin. That tends to be like the maxi picture. But now a lot of the maxis are like just all of their position in the crypto world is only in Bitcoin. So in that way, I'm a maximalist on Bitcoin, where all of the money I put in crypto, I never have sold any Bitcoin. I've only continued to buy Bitcoin. So I've never sold a single sat, but I continue to buy Bitcoin, and I only buy Bitcoin, and I never sell it, and I hold it in cold storage. So in that way, I guess I have a little bit of a maximalist tendency in Bitcoin. But from the original definition, I don't think I am one. I invite anyone to travel to Afghan with 1 million worth of gold and 1 trillion worth of BTC. We know which is the easiest and the safest. That's a great point. I mean, it's just to move it around is huge. So just as a digital reserve asset, it makes a ton of sense. So it's like if you're in gold, maybe it's a good idea to have some Bitcoin and to explore it a little bit. Not financial advice. Matt James, do you hodl your metals yourself? Yes. I don't have any metals trusted by, I don't have it in like a different vault or something. I only own them, the physical real things. Matt says, Rob said he's not going to talk about altcoins. Like I'm happy to talk about it, but I can't go into like extreme detail on an altcoin because if I'm honest, I just haven't found any that are worth my time. So all I do is I study more and more about Bitcoin, and I hear from the altcoiners, and I try to talk to them as well, but I just find them to be overvalued based on their utilities. I don't see any of them as being able to be a money or a currency. Bitcoin is the only one that I see as being a possible asset that could be a currency as well. So I just don't see any value in them other than their utility value. So on that point, they would all be overvalued. But I'm more than happy to hear from them. I just don't want to talk about something that I'm not extremely informed on. So there might be like intricate details about Hex or Doge or Monero, as someone just brought up, but I don't know those intricate details yet because I haven't been studying it. So rather than sound like ignorant, I would rather study more about it and talk about it on another time. But as of right now, I don't believe in any of them. So, but I'm more than happy to learn more about them and be able to comment on it later on. So Jay Lee says, the only reason I'm into crypto is a hedge for monopoly money. I mean, could you go into more detail about that? Are you talking about fiat as monopoly money? Well, yeah. I mean, that's why all of us are in it, you know. Rai says, the ones that get Bitcoin seem to be the most intelligent, humble, and genuine people. I hope so. I hope so. It's hard because once you do get Bitcoin, it's like you want to tell everybody about it. But you also got to have like I said this on Twitter where it's like it's a natural selection of financial competence in a way. You know, it's like you have this sort of, you got to let it run its course. I could be wrong. And natural selection of financial competence proves I'm wrong. And then I end up taking one on the chin and I learn from that and I come back stronger. So it's like sometimes you got to be in that situation where if somebody doesn't see it from your perspective, you just got to let it play out. And then maybe they will later on. You know, I've been wrong about a ton of things in my life. And then later on, I realized, I was wrong about that. I got to make some corrections here. So part of me doesn't want to there's people that are really big in NFTs and they might come up with some sort of idea with NFTs that can later bring these ideas to the Bitcoin network. And they say the Bitcoin network wins and they start rolling out smart contracts on Bitcoin. They might bring all their knowledge from that area. They might lose a ton of money over there, but then they bring that knowledge over to Bitcoin. So it's kind of important to have that free market type thing going on there, because even though, and maybe Bitcoin's wrong, maybe something else wins, but as of right now, I think Bitcoin's winning. I think it's super, rather than saying I'm a Bitcoin maximalist, I would say I'm a free market maximalist. I believe in free markets. And free markets will always, the reason we have YouTube, the reason we're able to do this fancy live stream right now, and we have supercomputers in our pockets, is because of free market capitalism. And so it's very important to have that free market capitalism and people competing, because it only advances the technologies, which is like when you go into the energy debate with Bitcoin, like it takes so much energy. It's like, well, now because it takes so much energy and people are working so hard to get this Bitcoin, they're going to make better ways to get renewable energy. It's going to force us to advance the technology, which is why they're getting it from like volcanoes in El Salvador now, which they would have never thought about doing that, but the energy is valuable and they want to do it in a renewable way. So it forces us to grow and grow and grow. And so it's like, that's what you want. So yeah, I'm a free market maximalist, if anything. That's exactly why I'm learning about NFTs and other cryptos use cases is so important. Left side story. That's honestly, I'm in the same boat. I don't believe in them. I think that it's going to be really hard for them to hold value. But what's interesting is the technology. And one thing I would like to see from NFTs, like if I had an idea towards it, which is something that it could be elaborated upon, is having an NFT to the physical product. You could be in a situation where you can't legitimately prove that you own that physical product. Let's say I own a Mona Lisa, right? I own a Mona Lisa and nobody believes me online that I own a Mona Lisa. Well, if I show that there's only one NFT that's from some verification house that proves that you have that Mona Lisa and you have that NFT for that physical Mona Lisa, it doesn't technically prove that like you're going to send it to somebody else, or it doesn't prove where it is, but it proves that at some point you owned it. And if somebody else wants to own it, you have to transfer that NFT for that physical item, and then they can prove in the digital realm that they own it, like kind of like a way to show off in a sense. Like, I actually own it. Here's my proof. There's only one and I got it, sort of thing. Like, I could see that happening, but to value the JPEG picture itself, I just don't see that. But the technology behind it, I could see it in other places. So there's something like in that type of aspect. There's things that are interesting there. Robert M says gold motivates me to buy more. Love the color and value. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, man. I think that gold will just be a slower horse than Bitcoin in the race. I think they all go up. I think everything goes up. Just Bitcoin is just way misunderstood and not valued correctly right now. And I think it's a good idea to have some on the balance sheet. I'm not making the argument that everybody should just be like, dump all my gold and go only buy Bitcoin. I just think that it's foolish to be all in, and it's equally foolish to have none. Especially if you're from gold, like foolish to be all in Bitcoin, equally foolish to have none. I can't say it any better than that. That's how I feel about it. I feel like I owed you all a long live stream because I've been gone for so long, and I also am stoked to be able to test out this live stream. And this is the first live stream. I've done a lot of live streams, and I think this is the first one where there was no quality issues. Nobody said like the sound isn't good or the video isn't good or anything like that. So it's like it hypes me up to know that this is dialed in, because now I can just do these at will and at normal times. Like right now it's like 12:30 at night, so I probably got to wind things down a little bit. But to have the live stream dialed in now, I'm stoked on this. This is rad to be able to have it dialed in, because I'm going to be able to do these a lot more now. So if I could just click a button and boom, we're live and we're doing this, and run a flawless stream where there isn't any internet connectivity issues or anything, I'm hyped on that, because this is also going to transfer to the new podcast. So if you're not subscribed to the new podcast, would really, really appreciate you subscribing to the new podcast. If you want to follow me on Twitter, all that information is in the description. I'm posting a lot on Twitter lately. I'm probably going to stop being on Twitter as much as I have been, but I enjoy doing those podcasts. Like if you want to talk to me in real time, when I host a Twitter space, it's like Clubhouse, but for Twitter. I can invite people to the stage to talk and have their own microphone and be able to talk with me on the stage. And so those Twitter spaces, I think, are really valuable. And then also Twitter is really valuable for me to be able to find people to interview for this new podcast channel. So that's why I've spent so much time on the Twitter. But I want to be back to YouTube, because YouTube is really where the platform I enjoy, and I love being here with everybody in these YouTube videos. So I'm going to be putting a lot more time into that new podcast channel. So if you want to subscribe to that podcast, I'm really trying to get it to show up. So like if you YouTube search Rob Soltan, this channel obviously shows up, and even videos I've done on other channels and stuff show up, but my new podcast channel isn't showing up very high on that feed. So as more people subscribe to that channel, and as more people view that first interview I did, it'll actually start showing up. So I'd really, really appreciate it if you guys could head over there and subscribe and maybe like that first video, because it really does help that grow. And with those interviews, you're not going to be seeing like advertisements. You're not going to be seeing like anything edited. It's just going to be like, remember when Joe Rogan was in the very beginning, where it was just totally unscripted, had crazy guests on and just totally unscripted, unedited, and just real talk, not like any fancy, formatting or anything. That's what I want to do for the finance space. Like I want to have like 2-hour-long discussions with hedge fund guys, people that are big in metals, people that are big in Bitcoin, and just be able to talk for a few hours and just discuss things. And I hope that's what you see in that first interview. I dropped like a 2-hour video with my buddy Daniel Joe, who is a really, really smart analyst. And he studies the on-chain stuff, that's a new thing for Bitcoin, where you can actually study how much Bitcoin is held outside of the exchanges and how much is going back to the exchanges, and the inflows and outflows of Bitcoin to and from the exchanges, and how much is being held outside of it. It's a new thing. This on-chain studying on-chain is completely new, because you can't take your Apple stock off of an exchange and put it in your own cold storage. Excuse me, you can't take your Tesla stock and hold it in your own cold storage. But this is the first time that we've had an asset that's digital, that you can take it from the exchange and hold it yourself. And on-chain is studying that process. So you get this really detailed view when you study the on-chain information of how much of this Bitcoin is out there, who's holding it, how many wallets are holding it, what's going on with the inflow outflows. Daniel, my buddy who I did that first interview with, which I highly recommend watching that video, has been like tracking like the third largest whaled wallet, which is like a multi-billion-dollar wallet, buying and selling Bitcoin. And he can track that actual wallet. Like if it's sending it into the exchange, taking money out of the exchange, how much is it buying? How much is it selling? All of that is just insane. It's crazy. Let's be real though. Who is going to take the chance to simply remembering their seed phrase? If you got enough there, you will. I mean, you know what's crazy? How many people, Jonathan Brown, he says basically, so when you get your seed phrase, you get a 24-word seed phrase. What I think about when people say, like, who's going to actually memorize their seed phrase? I have. So I have. But the reason I would say that is, like, how many times in a college have you put useless information on flashcards and studied useless information on flashcards to memorize like 100 things on these flashcards and study useless information? Like, how many things have you done on those flashcards to study the most useless thing that you don't even care about at all? But you still remember a lot of it because you studied it on those flashcards and you jammed it in your brain under those fluorescent lights, right? If you can't memorize 24 words that holds your savings on it, I mean, you're obviously gonna have it written down somewhere, put it on the metal seed phrase wall. It's obviously you're gonna have that, but you can memorize it. It's not that hard, and you can also memorize your past phrases on top of it. You should figure it out. If you're gonna figure it out, you're gonna figure it out. So I would recommend. There's a whole. I could do a whole video on the game theories of how to store your Bitcoin and how to even have Bitcoin in like a separate wallet so that if something ever did happen, you could give up that wallet, but not the other ones. You know, stuff like that. You can game theory it out, and it gets pretty intense when you start studying storage aspects. But all I can say is, if you can learn YouTube, if you can learn Instagram, if you can learn how to even use your iPhone, you can figure out cold storage. I remember the first time you held an iPhone, like the first time, all of us do. The first time you got like a Palm, like I remember the Palm Pilot was a big thing when I was a kid. And then you got this iPhone, and you're like, whoa, this is fancy. And you just didn't know what to do with this. And then now look at us on these things. I can barely get it away from me at night. You know, it's like I'm in bed and I'm looking through this iPhone through every little app and things. And it's like, if you can figure all of that out, you can figure out how to hold your money. It's pretty valuable learning how to hold your money. So I guess maybe I have more hope that humans will be able to figure this out because it's really easy. But some people tend to think that it's impossible or something, but I think it's really, really easy to figure it out. And it's getting easier and there's so much information out there on YouTube for free to learn about this. So go ahead and learn about it. I would love to help people maybe on an individual basis or something. That I've helped some clients and stuff like that. Maybe in the future I do some sort of class or course or something, but I didn't want to make videos on storage or anything like that until I learned about it myself. I don't want to be that person talking about something because I watched somebody else's video and like regurgitating information. I have to actually genuinely do it myself and learn it myself before I talk about it. So the reason I haven't made any videos on cold storage or stuff like that is because I'm still learning. I'm in the process of building my own node right now. I'm in the process of learning how to verify what's in each individual wallet, all that different stuff, downloading the SHA-256 or whatever onto this node and having my own situation. So I have to learn and then talk about it. And so that's where I'm at right now, is learning how nodes work. And then eventually I might get a few ASICs miners and learn how those work too. They're pretty expensive, but I might buy a few of those and figure that out and get a little mining setup going, and then we can talk about that some. But I just don't want to make the video until I know about it, if that makes sense. But yeah, it is. Someone says, what's my time zone? I don't want to say my time zone, but it's getting a little bit late. So I'm probably going to call it a night and be able to wind this thing down. It's been an awesome conversation. It's great to be able to test this live stream. I mean, we've done, how long has this live stream been? A few hours, right? Started it at 10:45. 1, 2. Yeah, two hours on this live stream, and it's ran flawless. So that's pretty rad. Wait, someone said I missed a super chat. Hang on. I don't want to miss a super chat. Maybe we'll keep it going. I'll keep it going for like another 10 minutes. Vacation Time says, yes, thanks for the long live stream. No lagging, buffering. It's crystal clear. Right on. That hypes me up, man. That means these live streams are coming back. I'm a little rusty. I haven't done these in a long time. Snakes000 says, can't utilities of crypto be seen like holding stock in a company? If a company will produce goods and profits, then you can invest in its stock. It's like a deep question, Snakes. I think it's a good question. I just don't see any utility. Like, for example, let's take apart Ethereum. Let me look up. I want to see what the market cap is right now. So hopefully, I don't think this will mess up my live stream. I think I'm able to do this. I think I can even click. Maybe we should test that out at the end of the live stream. Why not? Let's test it out. If I go, am I still? Let's see. If the live stream cuts out, then I made a mistake. But let's look into this real quick. I'm going to try to do a screen share thing because I got this fancy new thing I'd want to dial in. If I click that, can you see my screen now? Are we doing the screen share thing? Boom, there we go. We can look at market caps now. Look at that. Look how fancy I am now, guys. Look at this. This squirrel has figured this out. I can be a fancy YouTuber now. So wow, Bitcoin's on a bit of a pullback. It's looking like a pretty good opportunity there. Bitcoin's down at 44.8, Ethereum at 31, but a market cap of $367 billion for Ethereum, right? What is the utility value of the smart contracts? You know, I don't see it being worth $367 billion. I understand why Bitcoin can be $845 billion. I understand that, but I don't understand how Ethereum has that high of a market cap. I just don't see when we start valuing these things for their utility, is the utility of Cardano, because they just rolled out their smart contracts, right? That was there was the big thing. And all of these altcoins, they tend to be like trying to get you to pump their bags or sell you on something. You know, it's like, well, you just wait until Ethereum 2.0 comes out. When 3.8 comes out, when 4.2 comes out, you have no idea. 8.7 Bitcoin or Ethereum, you know, ETH, you know, 9.2 is that when 9.2 comes out, you don't even know what's going to happen. It's like they all tend to have that type of thing. Same thing with Cardano. It's like when Cardano rolls out their smart contracts, you have no idea. Wait till we come back in our final form. Remember, I used to watch Dragon Ball Z when I was a little kid, and they'd be like, wait till I come back in my final form. Just wait. When I come back in my final form, you'll see. And it's like all of them tend to be that, you know, they all talk about, they're all the same story. They all tend to be like, oh, well, you just wait. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Let's see if I can go back. Wait, can I go back? Am I able to do this? Whoa, look at that. I got the fancy button thing right there. Oh, this is a whole new world now. Oh, it's on. It might have taken me a few weeks to figure this thing out, but oh, that's beautiful. I can pull up my screen on these. Okay. Now we're talking. Everybody. This is some fancy stuff. I'm not used to this kind of stuff, guys. I'm just a kid from a skate park that happened to figure out about, you know, the collectibles industry. You know, this is all new stuff to me. I only know how to ride a skateboard. So we're learning. I know how to like hide acorns in trees, and I know how to skateboard. Those are my things. So this is a whole new thing. Takes me a little while, but now I got this fancy setup, so I can look at this. Ready? We're gonna do it again. Boom. Whoa. Back. Whoa. All right. Next level stuff here. Was the mic working that entire time? It like didn't cut out the mic, right? Fancy. Extra fancy. Oh, I can even watch this. I can even do this. I can go boom. And then I could take away myself. Look at that. Boom. Put myself back. Take me away. Boom. Whoa. There we go. Okay, that's fancy. That's fancy right there. Okay. I even got this little fancy wireless keyboard now. Okay, so so when I said the live streams were coming back, I hope I've proved myself. I've proved myself, because this is like rocket science for like a squirrel like me to learn this. This is rocket science type stuff. So I'm now a rocket scientist on these YouTube videos. But thank you all so much for being part of this live stream. I'm excited to come back and do these. I'll probably be doing these more scheduled. By the way, when I do these live streams, I post them. So this should be able to be viewed. Again, I'm using a new software, so I'm hoping this gets posted. I would be very bummed if it doesn't get posted. If it doesn't get posted, I'll try to post it, because I think I still save it to my computer. But I think it just gets posted when I'm done with this. But thank you all so much for being part of this. Yeah, it must have been like a really quick, because the block clock updates every 5 minutes, but the price right now is 44,805. Maybe it's telling me maybe I got to stay live a little bit to prove it's right, you know. I think it must have had a quick little pull down over the last 5 minutes. So if it refreshes, but that's also, I think that's linked to Coinbase's price. So the pricings might be different on different sites. So Coinbase might have a different spot price than, I think I'm on CoinMarketCap for that. So yeah, it's moving right now. There's a little bit of a pullback opportunity, and a lot of it comes to them. They're saying the dollar is getting stronger. It just blows my mind because they said the dollar is stronger based on the retail sales, and it's like, I don't know how long the Fed and like how long they're going to get away with this narrative. Like it's okay to print as much money as they have, and there's not going to be any repercussions. It's just going to be a transitory type thing. I don't know how long they're going to be able to get away with that narrative. But in the time being, they have been getting away with that narrative. So they're talking about the retail sales are better than before, so the economy might be a little bit better than expected. But it's like the economy is operating on diluted currency. I don't believe that this is what I'll end this entire space for everybody. I said space. I've been on Twitter too much. I'll end this live stream on this for everybody that's afraid of a deflationary world. We already are in a deflationary world because technology has made everything easier and less expensive. So if I want to learn information, for example, like college wasn't expecting deflation to happen on education. So deflation has firsthand hit the education system, right? And what has it done? It has made education cheap, easy to access on the internet, and if you pay for it, it's really, really worthwhile because you have a competition there. So like I got the masterclass thing recently, right? And so it was like $200 or $300 or whatever for the masterclass. I think it's like $180 for this masterclass thing. And I'm learning how to cook from Gordon Ramsay himself, right? I'm watching videos on how to cook from Gordon Ramsay. I'm like, okay, I can make really good food now because I bought this masterclass thing. Like negotiation classes. There's all kinds of classes on this thing. And it's like $180 for all of it. And it's like, I would argue that just the masterclass thing is more valuable than $100,000 degree to me, at least, or $200,000 degree to me. I would much rather learn that information than the information I did in college before I dropped out. So it's like, because we're getting more and more, the education level is getting easier and easier to learn information. If you're passionate, you can go to YouTube and learn a ton of stuff for free. That means the entire education model is experiencing major deflation. Now, is that a bad thing to you? To you watching this video that's saying, oh, deflation's scary. Was it a bad thing to see education go through deflation? It was an amazing thing because now anybody who has access to the internet, no matter whatever background you have, if you have access to the internet, you now can get an extremely valuable information. And you know what the ironic part is that I got a chip on my shoulder because I didn't have like some wealthy family to put me to some fancy college or whatever, right? I worked my way up from a waiter. I happened to be a waiter for the right table who was a collectibles dealer and then took me in and I learned collectibles from him. That's how I got to where I am now. But if you're in a position where you're living out of your car, and I trust me, I know what that feels like. If you're in a bad place, if you can go to a coffee shop and have internet connection and be able to save up a few $100 and you get an iPhone and you're learning information for free off of this Wi-Fi there. I mean, you can get a more valuable education than the fancy kid at an Ivy League school where their parents are paying for their fancy college. You might actually get much further ahead than them because they're having to learn the same information pertaining to the same textbook from 1982. Like, that's not even relevant information. You can find really, really valuable information if you're passionate and you have access to the internet. So that's what deflation has done for you. That's how great deflation is. And it actually gives me an idea to make a video on deflation. So what would the world be like if the money itself was deflationary? I think it would model that. I think it would be rough at first, but I think it would model that exactly, where people trusted the money again and they could actually build a savings account and their savings would grow in value and could buy more things. And everything else would have to compete more for this asset that they hold because the asset's getting harder and harder to get. So there would be more competition. So it's like what it did for education, I think it would do that for everything if it happened with the money. That's just how I feel about it. That would be my little ending on deflation, and I hope that helps some people. But we tend to be told that a lot by economists. Usually I think it's like the Keynesian economics that say stuff like that. I tend to go more towards the Austrian economics crowd. So if you listen to the models that the colleges ironically teach you, I would strongly disagree with them, but I tend to follow the Austrian economics models. But I think deflation would be great. I think it would do the same thing that it's done for education. And no matter what, you can't stop deflation because it's already going through our technology. Like right now, being able to do a live stream, for example, I'm going to be able to interview high profile guests on this new podcast channel. Shameless plug. Go follow the new podcast channel. Go subscribe. It's in the description. Please subscribe to it. Like that video. It helps it get out. But that's deflation in a way because I don't have to go to some fancy, you used to have to go to some like news set, and sit down at a news set. And then they had all the fancy equipment so that they could put it out there onto the televisions and everything. But because deflation, I'm able to sit in my warehouse, have a fancy interview right into my own set and do it for a cost that used to cost millions of dollars for some fancy news set to do it. So that's deflation. And then that information gets out there for free to be absorbed. And if you want to pay for like YouTube Premium, whatever, which I would argue is really worth it. Side note, I found out YouTube Premium has its own music service. I used to pay $10 a month for Apple Music, and then I found out YouTube has YouTube Music. So I'm like, okay, so YouTube Premium is only $8 now because I'm getting rid of the Apple Music. And now I only use YouTube Music, which I think is better than the Apple Music. So I would argue that $18 is better than a college education too. So you don't have to listen to ads and stuff like that. And you get music. So it's like and movies and stuff. So I'm like, okay, if I was going to pay for an education, I'd buy the masterclass thing. I'd buy YouTube Premium, and I'd have high-speed internet. College education, that beats every Ivy League school across the country. You have those three things. That is literally the best education possible. High-speed internet, like a supercomputer, which is like an iPhone, or you can get a Mac Mini now. A Mac Mini is like a great M1 chip computer. It's only, I think it's like $600. It's crazy how cheap that is for what you get for it. And then so if you could get get your whole setup for like $1,000, and then pay for internet, pay for $18.99 for YouTube Premium, or you get the masterclass, which would be like $20 a month or something like that. It's like all those things. It's cheap to have a very, very, very high-end education today due to deflation. So that's my last little rant. And it did update. Look at that. It did update. See? So it is going. It goes every 5 minutes, I guess. But thank you so much for being part of this live stream. I hope it helps some people, and I hope we had a really good conversation here, I think. And that's how these conversations will always go on this channel. So if you want to subscribe, this is what to expect, is videos like this. I think that gives me an idea to do a video just on deflation because I'd like to talk about that. That's been on my mind a lot. So again, thank you so much for being here. See you at the next video. I'm going to sign out. Hopefully, I'm using this new software that has been really good. So this is the first time I've had a live stream where it hasn't been all clogged up. Usually the live stream, something bad happens in the middle of the live stream. So the software obviously works. And the new Cat 8 fancy cables or whatever works. And I have to thank a lot of you guys on Instagram and stuff that shot me DMs and said, hey, do you have the Cat 8 cables? Do you put it through the other thing was like the power strip. I have a certain kind of power strip now that I forget the word for it, but it's a certain kind of power strip that makes it so that the energy is like the same to all the devices. Power conditioner. But anyway, all the people that shot me messages and helped me dial in the setup, I'm still continuing to improve upon it, but it's pretty crazy that I can literally go like do that kind of thing. Like, I feel like a real YouTuber now. So thank you so much for bearing with me. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, or if you'd like to subscribe to the podcast channel, or both, I'd appreciate it if you did both, or smash the like button. Would really appreciate it. Helps these videos get out to more people, and I plan to make a lot more of them. So thanks again. See you at the next video. Signing out. Hopefully it posts the video. I'm gonna try it right now. I'm gonna click finish. Hopefully it posts the video.